Hello. Today, I am showing some more Piggy build mode concepts. Most of them are features, there's only one asset. I fixed some bugs since last time, like Piggy falling down once killing a player. Also, a lot of you guys have been asking me when the next Roblox Studio tutorial is going to be, and to be honest, I don't know. Those tutorial videos have not been getting many views recently, so it seems like you guys aren't as interested, which is unfortunate for the people who are. But if you're one of the people who are interested, don't get too disappointed yet. I'm not the type of guy to quit before I finish. I like to finish what I start, so I'll post a few more videos on it. I just won't cover everything you need to know about making this kind of game. I will be posting on that less frequently though. Now on to the concepts. The first thing you may notice are these new buttons on the bottom right. I added undo/redo buttons. Using these, I can undo or redo any time I use one of the tools. For example, if I place a block, I can undo it and then redo it. Same with the other tools, like scaling, moving, deleting, painting, picking, and rotating. Not only does it work with tools, but it also works with linking. I am still working on making it work with changing the settings of a part. This undo/redo system was suggested by Sharkman the Angry Shark and Gustavo Pero 65. I remember more people asking for this, but when I actually filtered my comments, I could only find these two. It's a very great idea nonetheless. Our next concept has so much potential and could lead to very cool things in the future. I present to you the configure menu. So far, there are only two configurations you can make, but we could fill this up as time goes on. The first one is the terrain color, which some people have been wanting ever since I released the terrain block. Using this, you can color any type of terrain material, even water. Let me demonstrate. Okay, so as you can see, the grass that was generated from the terrain block can only be this specific shade of green. Using this new feature, however, we can change it. I'm going to make it a much brighter green. The colors are not completely accurate. For example, you can see that this has a slight shade of yellow and isn't a completely solid RGB green. And when we put red, it's actually going to be a hot pink instead. It's confusing, and you aren't able to do any color you want, but it still works fine. Now, let's use water for the terrain material. As you will see in a bit, the water is going to be the default dark shade of blue. At the time of recording this video, I was sinking straight to the bottom because of a part of the now clipping script that was ruining the physics, but by the time this video releases, it should be fixed. Now let's change the color of the water to red. And voila! The terrain block by itself is revolutionary, but now that you can change the color, you could make really cool things with it. This next feature is even cooler. I'm pretty sure Epic_Tank is thinking about adding this, but a lot of you guys have been suggesting this, so I thought of a way to add it using this configuration menu. The first step is just to grab any gear from the Roblox marketplace. I'm going to use the Bloxy Cola item. I'm going to copy the ID from the URL and paste it in this input box. And there we go. The gear label appears there with both the name and ID to confirm that the ID was valid and that the gear was now added. But now, how are we actually going to use these gears? I actually implemented them into the item spawn block and item use trigger. For the item setting, we can scroll down and see our gear. Basically, when you add a gear into your game, it functions as an item. The only difference is that the gears don't have corresponding events, like key to door, keycard to panel, wire to box, and wrench to panel. Also, when you use a gear in the item use trigger, an image of the gear actually does show up if you have the show hint bubble setting on. This gear idea was suggested by Dieguis0364, Human_Sushi, Soundsidle, Iselbel3820, and Scry. Let's test these gears. Perfect. As you can see, there were 3 stages of using that gear: spawning it, using it for its intended purpose, and triggering a signal with it. It also works with an if gate. If you use the has item setting and select the gear you want, it will function accordingly. There was a bug while I recorded this in which the settings for whichever gear you wanted would sometimes disappear. This should be fixed by the time this video releases. Perfect. And, of course, if you click the item use trigger with the gear in your inventory, it still works properly. Before I end the video, there's one more concept I want to show. I did it on a different recording, though. I don't know about you guys, but when using a touch trigger, I wish that it would count multiple people touching it instead of just the first person who touches it. Some of you may have not even noticed this, but let's say the forever setting is off. The blue box represents the touch trigger, and the circles represent players. If yellow enters the touch trigger, then the block holds the player data of yellow. If red enters, the touch trigger will still have yellow's player data though. When yellow leaves, the player data will be set to nobody. See the problem? Let's imagine another scenario in which the forever setting is actually on. Yellow enters the touch trigger. The player data is set to yellow. Red enters the touch trigger. The player data is still yellow. Yellow leaves. Player data is still yellow. Red leaves. Player data is still yellow. Red re-enters. Player data is still yellow. Again, it's a bit of a problem if you want multiple players' data to be held in a touch trigger. That's where this advanced touch trigger comes in. Let's imagine a scenario in which the forever setting is off. Yellow enters. Player data is yellow. Red enters. Player data is both red and yellow. Yellow leaves. Player data is red. Red leaves. Player data is nobody. It's a lot more useful when you need the touch trigger to have different players' data simultaneously. Now, let's imagine the last scenario, advanced touch trigger with forever setting on. Yellow enters. Player data is yellow. Red enters. Player data is yellow and red. Yellow leaves. Player data is still yellow and red. Red leaves. Player data is still yellow and red. An important piece of information is that a signal is fired whenever red activates the advanced touch trigger, even though yellow was already activating it. Due to this, you might still need to use the old touch trigger if you want a one-time signal. For example, if you want the signal to temporarily spawn a powered block only the first time, then you can't use the advanced one because it would spawn that powered block every time a new player activates. Using this advanced touch trigger, I can teleport myself to a survivor-only teleport block every time I touch it, regardless if Piggy was already on it. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, it would help me a lot if you subscribed. Leave any more suggestions in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.